Welcome to CEBSAR Talk. And in fact, I must say, this is the first CEBSAR Talk show. Before I introduce our guest to deal with the issue for today, I will introduce to you CEBSAR Africa and the talk show briefly. CEBSAR Africa, which is Center for Better Society, Advocacy and Research. It's a non-profit organization, and we believe that a better society begins with you and I. Hashtag, a better society begins with me. We would be grateful and urge you to check us on the various social media platforms weekly on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am Evans Apia Kisi, the host of CEBSAR Talk Show. Don't go away. You will get informed and educated. The recent protest in US and around the world as a result of the sad murder of George Floyd has sparked a global discussion on different forms of discrimination regarding race, tribe, religion, age, sex, and education. In fact, the problem of discrimination is a global one. In Ghana, for example, there are many forms of discrimination that requires attention. But for us in CEBSAR Africa, one of the rising forms of discrimination in Ghana and the world is a structural political tribalism. Moving forward and beyond election 2020 in Ghana, we in CEBSAR Africa believe that what we need is a systemic change to political tribalism to prevent a flame of revolution that may lead to chaos. This is exactly our discussion for today. And with me to discuss this important issue are Mr. Yeboah Edmond. Edmond is a research fellow at CEBSAR Africa. He's also a doctoral researcher at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. He studied MSc in Life Science, Economics and Policy from the Technical University of Munich, Germany, and did his Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Sciences from the University of Cape Coast, Ghana. Edmond, you are welcome to the first CEBSAR Talk Show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans.
Great. The next guest we have is Mr. Albert Kobina-Mensah. He's the CEO CEBSAR Africa. He's also a doctoral researcher at Ruhr University Bochum in Germany. His research focus is soil pollution, soil remediation, and environmental sustainability. He had his Master of Science in Water Resources from Kenyatta University, Nairobi, Kenya, and had his Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Sciences from University of Cape Coast, Ghana. Mr. Albert Kobina-Mensah, welcome to the first CEBSAR Talk Show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apiakisi.
Great, good to have you.
Thank you.
And then our last panel member, Mr. Lord Edusei Akins. He's also a doctoral researcher at University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. His research focus is international development policy and biosecurity. He had Master of Science from Stockholm University in Sweden, and Master of Science from Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Sweden, and Bachelor of Science from KNUST, Ghana. Mr. Lord Edusei Akins, welcome to the first CEBSAR Talk Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you guys. And for viewers out there also, yeah, like we said, so today's discussion is centered around political tribalism. We draw inspiration from what happened in the US, as I said in my introduction already. And I would like to begin with you, Edmond. I mean, given that there are different, terminologies when it comes to different forms of discrimination, we have identified one form of discrimination which is rising in the Ghanaian politics as political tribalism. And I would like you to touch on what the concept is. What is political tribalism? And how does the concept differ from general tribalism that we know?
Okay, thank you very much for posing me this question. And I must start with a disclaimer that I'm not a political scientist, neither am I an expert in political tribalism. But I'm looking at it from an aspect point of view, and I did justice as every researcher would do to an issue when an issue is presented. So your question again is, what is political tribalism? It's two different words put together to form a concept. So I would take it from the angle of, let us dissect the two words and then see what each of them means. And then at the end, we bring it together and we contrast it with what general tribalism means. So first and foremost, as Aristotle said, we are all political animals. Whether you like it or not, you belong to a system, and politics is simply the activities and the ways by which we govern a nation, a country, whatever it is that we govern. So, and what is tribalism? Being part of a tribe is just social division of people. So tribalism actually is just a state of living in a tribe. And somebody will ask, so why does living in a tribe now has negative connotation? It only did in the mid 20th century, because if you follow the discussion of evolution, that's how we all became to be who we are today. Together we stand, divided we fall. So the first social unit was the tribes. And from there came the national states. When we progressed to the nation states, then definitely we had to lay down our tribal tendencies and our tribal identities and take on a new identity, which is a national identity. And this is where the problem now started to emerge. So the other form of tribalism, or the other definition of tribalism, is when people are overly loyal to their own group. So when the concept of a nation state and a national identity now is superseded by your tribal loyalties, then it turns into the negative thing, because that's not what we all want. So political tribalism, I would define it as just the new way of defining tribalism, where the basis of the social division is no more based on culture or language, but rather on partisan identity. So the discussion is no more I am from tribe A or I am from tribe B, but rather I am from party A and I am from party B. So this is how I would describe what political tribalism means. And if you ask me, what is the difference between political tribalism and general tribalism? Like I said, general tribalism is on the line of ethnicity. So you are from this ethnic group A, I'm from this ethnic group B. Political tribalism, it's on the line of a new dimension. So just imagine that in Ghana, for example, say we have 10 major ethnic groups. And then tribalism is when these 10 fighting with each other for resources, whatever it might be. Now there is a new line drawn. The new line drawn is no more on the 10 divisions, but on 2 divisions between party A and party B. Here, my tribal identity doesn't matter in the group called A or B. I hope you get what I mean. So this is the main difference. So the main difference is no more fighting on ethnic lines, but fighting on party ideologies and fighting on party belonging. Where do you belong? I belong to party A and I belong to party B. In the course of the discussion, we would get to know why this is good or why this is bad. So in a brief or in a nutshell, this is how I would define the term political tribalism, where the new basis of our division is no more on culture or language or by blood or by birth, but rather it's on partisan lines.
Very well. Thank you very much. But maybe just a follow-up. So you say that political tribalism simply is more of, being overly loyal on partisan identity.
Definitely. So tribalism is overly loyal to your own group and lifting your own group above other group. That's tribalism in along the ethnic lines. And tribalism along political line is being overly loyal to your political party and lifting your political party above other parties. That isn't bad, but it depends on the context, right? So it doesn't mean I should defend my party at all times, even when even when I think that person might be wrong. This is where the problem comes in.
Okay. I would definitely come back to you again to address that bit. I mean, if we could have some examples to depict when we can say this political tribalism is bad. Because if I get you very well, it sounds like political tribalism is not necessarily a bad thing per se, but if it is, done in a wrong way or overly loyal or defending the indefensible, this is how I get the impression. But
definitely.
So let me go to Albert. I know I'll come to you with a different, major question, but what do you also think about what Edmond has already alluded to as far as the term political tribalism is, and, distinguishing it from other terms such as the general tribalism that we know?
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Edmond Diabois had really elucidated the concept really good. I mean, so the other thing we can talk about political tribalism is partisan tribalism, where people pay allegiance to their political parties, and they think that the interest of the political party supersedes that of the interest that they actually have for the nation. Just as he had actually alluded, we all belong to a group in one way or the other. Everybody belongs, we belong to political parties, we belong to churches, we belong to religious bodies, we belong to football teams. So in one way or the other, we all do belong. Actually having a sense of belonging is not bad, but whereby your sense of belonging clouds your judgment, whereby you see blue, you call it green because your party says whenever you see green, you're going to call it blue. That is where the problem lies, and that is where that is when, especially when we have the interest of the political party superseding that of the nation. That is why I had always argued that any division that tends to divide a society than bridges a society is something that nobody should give credence to. We should be able to say no to anything that divides a society than bridges a society. That is why when you go to countries like China, you go to other, communism countries that practicing communism and those things, you cannot belong to, let's say, religion, because you are going to have indoctrinations and all that, and that might affect the larger interest of the country. You might have your sense of belonging and all that, but then the national interest matters most. So I think political tribalism might not be bad, but where the interest of the party or the faction that you belong to supersede that of the national interest, that is where we actually have a problem.
Well, thank you very much, Albert. I would definitely come to you, as I said, to ask you of a different dimension where you would elaborate on some classical, cases or historical cases of what political tribalism is. But before I come to you, Lord, what do you also think of what has already been said as far as the concept political tribalism is?
Okay, thank you very much. To add to what my colleagues have said, we can also look at political tribalism from the point of view of political parties. For instance, you can have one political party, and within that political party, there may be several groups that have agreed to come together to form that political party. But as time goes on, you see these various groups trying to regroup themselves within that very political party. And then you see them fighting among themselves, though they all belong to one political party, so that it can reach a point whereby within that political party, certain groups could be prevented from even becoming leaders, even though they are part of that same political party. That is also part of the political tribalism concept. If I will give you an example, if you look at MPP as a political party in Ghana, it is made up of several groups. But you usually hear of the Achin Mafia there, and then other groups like the Ashanti. These are all groups that are within MPP. But you find out that at some point in time, each faction within the group would like its members to become leaders of the party. When that becomes the norm, that political party also begins to experience what is called political tribalism, whereby, though I'm a member of that party, but because I don't belong to one tribe within that party, I may be denied political position. At the same time, you can also see a situation whereby people within that same political party, positions that has to be distributed fairly, are usually skewed in favor of one group within that same political party. This is also part of the broader concept of political tribalism. And it is more dangerous when you have that kind of system because it can disintegrate political parties. That is why if you look at Africa and some parts of the world, there are political parties that usually disintegrate or get itself divided into several parts simply because of this politics or concept called political tribalism. These groups that usually form the party begins to see themselves as entities rather than as a whole. And when they begin to look at themselves as different entities rather than a whole, infighting begins to erupt. And when infighting erupts, it can destroy the foundation of their political parties. If you look at Ghana, for instance, we have CPP. CPP used to be a major force, but right now we don't have CPP because the members have all drifted away to join other group. This is what happens when infighting becomes a dominant issue, and it is part of this broader concept called political tribalism.
Interesting perspective out there from Lord. That's very great. I would turn to you, Albert, before I later come to Edmond again. But
I would try to chip something in that is in line with what Lord just said. So Lord talked about the infighting and in groupings, and it forms part of the bigger concept of political tribalism, but it can also form part of a different concept that it took me a lot of time to really distinguish when I was following the discussion as I was preparing for this talk. Because oftentimes you see, I would call it tribalism in politics. So I want to make this distinction very clear. Political tribalism and tribalism in politics. Tribalism in politics is when we do politics along tribal lines. Like my analogy I gave at the beginning of the talk about having 10 major tribes, and then they form parties. And then you see within each party, there is some amount of representation of these tribes in there. Now, political tribalism is when the new division is along the party lines, and then we have two major tribes, because here we are using tribe as a term to represent a group. So we have two big groups instead of 10 groups originally. Now, tribalism in politics now set in when within the groups, the factions now begin to disintegrate, and then the 10 strong tribes in the parties now take turns and then form groups within the party. So an example of tribalism in politics is just what Lord said, that we didn't say party A, they will say you are not from tribe C or you are not from tribe D, and therefore we won't give you that position. Or we use the majority, and the party A is filled with so many people from tribe C, so therefore we ride the party. So that's tribalism in politics. And the concept here we are talking about is political tribalism. The infighting can also be due to political tribalism, where even within a party, there is another division. But here the division should be more ideological than on ethnic identities. So that would be the distinction between tribalism in politics and political tribalism. Tribalism in politics, it's more of ethnic identity, whereas political tribalism, quote unquote, if such thing exists, should be based on ideology or identity politics. I follow person A, I follow person B, I follow faction A, or I follow faction B.
Yeah, thank you very much, Edmond. And I totally agree with you also with my little search on the term, which is more, towards political lines. Yes, but I like the concept that Lord also brought in, which has given the opportunity to explain this. I'm sure we could also have a discussion around tribalism in politics, like the classical case of the MPP that he gave. But maybe before I go to Albert, I was going to go to Albert, but what do you think about also kind of selective invitation? In some cases you would have two people from different political parties, having committed similar crimes, okay? But you would see that there's some kind of selective invitation towards one who does not belong to a particular party. Does that also align to political tribalism? So that I'm getting the sense that it looks more like only debating ideas. Is that all? That is it with political tribalism?
Is the question addressed to me? Okay, so yes, you're right. So you gave a very perfect example of what political tribalism looks like. You see, when two people commit the same crime, but they are treated differently based on their party colors, the value judgment here is faulted, and it's faulted not on logic, but it's faulted on the fact that he's part of me and he's not part of me. If I insult you, an insult is an insult. It must be seen the same way. But if the people following me think that it's okay to insult him, however, it's not okay for the other person to insult him, then it's a problem here. And when this division is based on, yeah, it's okay because he's part of my political party, then we have a problem here. So this is a classical case of political tribalism, that people have the impunity to commit any crime they want, and they feel like I'm untouchable because my party is in power. However, a similar crime committed by somebody from the opposite side or an innocent Ghanaian who is not much into politics will land them in trouble. So this is the very thing we are talking about.
Thank you very much. Albert, I said I was going to ask you a question to give us some, examples, which the discussion has already kickstarted with what I said. But do you also see, so yes, two people committing the same crime, but the other person being invited because he or she does not belong to the ruling party? What about people also committing crimes that people feel should be invited, but because they belong to the ruling party, they are not invited? Would that be considered as political tribalism? Or let me put my question generally. In your view, what are some of the classical examples of political tribalism that we have experienced in Ghana? Albert, can you please unmute your microphone?
Sorry, thank you. I think I will classify that example that you enumerated as part of political tribalism, just as Mr. Yeboah had also elucidated for us to all get. One major characteristic feature of political tribalism is the fact that you feel attack when your party is also under attack. You feel attacked when your party is also when ideologies of your party is also questioned. And that is what we have seen in cases where people who, because they belong to the ruling government, okay, they do something bad, okay, then they just get away with it. And I mean, the law, there's selective justice, okay, and that is why I was telling you that we all belong to tribes, and being part of groups is not wrong, but where the interest of the political party supersedes that of the national interest. That is where the problem lies. You remember there was a case where there was a case where the Supreme Court judge was threatened. In preparation towards the 2016 elections by people from the Muntie guys, and that is what happened. Those guys were arrested by the by the national security, and at a point in time, the ruling government went and bailed them out. The ruling government went and bailed them out.
Okay.
I can go on?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the ruling government went and bailed them out because they think those people belong to their camp. You know, there are other classical cases of political tribalism that I want us to take a look at across Africa and also in Ghana. Let me start the cases from Ghana. We can see that research had actually shown that now even the issues with ethnicity in politics and tribalism in politics is actually waning, and it is being superseded and is being succeeded by political tribalism, where people are now paying allegiance to their parties, because those were times where we used to have, like we say, Ashantis. Okay, Ashanti people from the Kumasi, they belong to MPP. People from the Volta region, they belong to NDC, but it is not the case now, because now we have vast majority of people who are Voltarians and are part of MPP. Likewise, also having vast majority of people who are Ashantis and also they are NDC. And we have seen cases where NDC is even winning quite a number of seats. I think in the 2016 or 2012 or so. I might be wrong with the year. We saw NDC sweeping like 5 seats in the Ashanti region, which was not the case. We even see the vote going in favor of MPP also coming up, and the vote going in favor of NDC dwindling in their strongholds, which tell you that people now are not so much belonging to based on their tribes that they belong to, or based on their ethnicity, but based on their political parties. Now, let me give you this classical example, and we see that this issue of political tribalism transcends within the whole ecosystem of the Ghanaian society and the Ghanaian politics, and that is actually deteriorating and trying to put the social fabric of our society apart. Let's start from student politics. As we see, student politics, people are belonging to these 2 major political parties, MPP, others are also alluding themselves to NDC, and we have the formation of TANE, which is for NDC. We have the formation of the people also belonging to TESCON, that is for MPP. So, and these people are kind of groups, and they go with one accord. Anything that my party says, if I belong to TANE, anything that TANE says is right. Anything that TESCON says, okay, is wrong. So that is where it actually starts. And these people join these kind of groups, okay? It's not because they have joined the groups because they just want to come up, okay, and help the society grow, move from maybe a third world nation to a first world nation. They have actually come to join those groups because of the potential benefit that they think they might actually get, and that is what is happening in major communities in Ghana, where people join MPP, people join NDC, and they are like, people are organizers, others are youth organizers, others are national chairman, others are women organizer. They are not joining these groups and becoming a national organizer or youth organizer or women chairperson or national chairman because of the fact of what they want to bring to the society, or because they want to develop the country. They join these groups because of what they will get. You understand? So because of that, they tend to nothing convinces them. As far as it belongs to the opposition, everything that the incumbent says is wrong. Okay, And as far as he belongs to the incumbent, everything the opposition says is wrong. We don't build a country like that. Let's also talk about the issue of vigilante groups and all that. The issues of vigilante groups, this is what is happening in political tribalism. People form groups not based on their ethnicity, not based on their color, not based on their on culture, on food or language, but they belong to these vigilante groups because these vigilante groups is MPP's vigilante groups or vigilante group. Then they belong to this vigilante group because it is NDC. You know, and these guys are creating chaos. We know the formation of the Delta Force, okay? We know the formation of the Azoka Boys, you know, and these guys actually at the end of the election, they go around causing rampage, seizing toll booths, seizing national parks, seizing toilets, you know, sacking DCs and coordinators they don't agree with from their offices, okay, storming courts when there's proceedings ongoing, and these people are just left scot-free because the ruling government belongs to, that is the camp they belong to. We saw what happened in the Ayawaso elections, where the election was disrupted. It became chaotic. It became chaotic because of the fact that there are vigilante groups who have aligned themselves to political tribes, and they cause mayhem. So this is a typical example. These are classical cases of political tribalism that we need to actually take a look at. If we are going to, I don't know if I still have more time, I can go on or
go ahead for a minute.
Yeah, you know, political tribalism. Yes, as I said, all of us have a sense of belonging, but where that sense of belonging clouds your rationality or clouds how you think, then it becomes a problem. Human minds have been made to think. When you see blue, it is blue. When you see red, it is red. You cannot belong to a party and think because you make a decision based on what the party thinks. I, for instance, even when I was very young, and you know, I finished secondary school 2004. Even at that time, when I casted my vote, even at that time, you know, I voted for MPP at that time, for President Kufuor at that time. But if the MP in my area, I did not vote for him. I did not vote for MPP MP. Because I listened, as young as I was, I listened to the manifestos of each member of parliament, the prospective member of parliament. I listened to them, and I made my choice. So I will vote for this person at the national level, but at the local level, I will vote for someone who is capable of transforming my community. And that brings me to this point, that the fact that you belong to MPP tribe, okay, or you belong to NDC tribe or CPP tribe, or you belong to a PPP tribe, doesn't mean that when you go and vote for a president, a flag bearer, who actually represents that particular party, you also have to go and vote for the MP from that same political party. You need to think.
All right. Hold on a little bit, Albert. But thanks again, you and Edmond put together. I get the sense that, and I'm sure Lord would also agree, and I'm coming to you, Lord, pretty soon, that the definition now, or the fundamental as far as political tribalism, moves in the direction of more of, you know, fighting on party ideologies. And we can put them into two concepts and say, with your examples, there are some classical cases of selective invitation, because it might not necessarily happen that two people will commit the same crime at the same time. So there's always, let's say, one person committing a crime or supposedly a crime, and there could be selective invitation or selective denial or silence. So you might have a party member of a ruling party committing a particular crime that warranted, you know, security agencies to invite the person, but because they belong to that political party, they might not be invited. Maybe we could call that selective denial or silence or what. And I liked your example also that you brought in with voting lines, which I guess, could also form or feed into political tribalism. But you say you do not necessarily, because you vote for a presidential candidate of a particular party, necessarily you do not vote for the member of parliament, but you try to, you know, look at what they have for you. So Lord, coming to you with this basic understanding that we have had, I don't know if you would still like to add a few examples, if you know of, you know, taking this fundamental definition that we have as far as political tribalism is, and then you can maybe touch on, that would be a major question for you, what you think could be done, you know, given some of these examples of political tribalism that Albert has shared, the way forward. What are some of the things you think could be done from both, you know, the citizens or various political parties in trying to address this issue of holding one's political ideology superior to the other?
Okay, thank you very much. To add to what my colleagues have already said, one classical example of this political tribalism is a situation whereby we all know that Ghana is a developing economy, and as a developing economy, we all need all hands on board. We all need all the resources, human, financial, technical, every kind of resource. We need it to be able to push the country forward. But you have a situation where, because I don't belong to party A, but I have all the necessary qualifications to run a government ministry, I am denied that opportunity simply because I don't belong to that political party in power. That kind of system work against the entire country. For instance, I may be a security expert. Every kind of security policy can be brought to me. I will be able to analyze it and then use my knowledge to help the country. But because I belong to, say, party A and party B is in power, I'm not going to be involved or be allowed to be involved in the policy making regarding security of the country. This kind of attitude usually undermines the country itself. It undermines its progress. It undermines its development, because experts are usually put aside and political hooligans are brought in. Sometimes they mismanage the whole system, and therefore they collapse the entire country. We have several examples across Africa whereby party leaders have used party members to run government businesses, even though they don't have the requisite experience and qualifications. Whereas people who are well organized, who are well experienced, and who are better equipped to run those businesses are sidelined simply because they belong to a political party that doesn't share the ideology of the government in power. So this kind of arrangements have serious impact when it comes to Africa, because we are still developing and we need every kind of mind to be able to move Africa or Ghana forward. And when we exclude a sizable part of our intellectual asset, when we exclude a sizable part of our intellectual asset from policy making, from development decision making, from security policy issues, then we end up pushing the country on the path of underdevelopment. And that is why 57, since we had independence in 1957, we're still struggling as a nation, simply because we try to employ all this kind of political tribalism to exclude people who are capable of doing good for our country. We try to exclude them, and we try to involve if you look at MPP and NDC in Ghana, for instance, what the grassroots or what they call foot soldiers actually demand is what the political leadership tends to do. So for instance, if food soldiers for MPP, which is the ruling government now, if they say that they want Kumasi to be closed because these food soldiers are making noise, the government or the party in power will listen to them. Meanwhile, these food soldiers may not have the slightest idea as to how even to maintain Kumasi as a city. Yet their policies or their thought becomes the government machinery for running the country. In this way, we end up having a very bad economy, a very bad infrastructure system, a very bad education system, a very bad health system, and almost everything begins to turn upside down. So political tribalism has a very serious impact for developing economies. Advanced economies can risk that. If you go to US, the Republicans and the Democrats, you can see that they sometimes they discuss issues based on party lines, but the country as a whole do have a lot of experts, and therefore they will not necessarily have to depend on all Republicans to run the country. Whereas if you come to Africa or Ghana as a developing economy, we don't have enough experts. And therefore, if we exclude some of the experts from our thinking, it makes running the country very, very difficult. And that is why if you go to, let's say, Obuasi or goat producing centers in Ghana, these regions or this part of the Ghanaian social fabric are denied development, not because the people do not know how to request, but because people who are supposed to be involved from that region or from that area, when we're talking about development, they are sometimes excluded because they may not belong to that political party. So we have a lot of disadvantages when we look at this political tribalism. I can my friend A.K. Mensah studied in Nairobi, and if you look at Kenya, for instance, anytime they have election, hundreds of people die. Why? Simply because the political machinery has become a patronage system, whereby if I belong to party A and that party A is in power, I am the one who is going to benefit. That means the rest of the country and the entire population in the country that do not belong to that political party are going to lose miserably. And that is why when there's election in, say, Ghana or in Kenya, people fight until some of them die. Not because they want to die, but because they have put all their faith in their political party, that if that political party doesn't win power, their end has come. And that is why we always try to do that. But we don't need to go on that path. Yes, we have to run countries in Africa based on political parties, but we don't have to run governments or run countries based on whose political party is in power. I don't know if you trying to you understand what I mean.
Exactly. We are absolutely with you.
We definitely need political parties. But when a party comes to power, the party should be able to draw all the energy within the country to govern. So it doesn't matter when Kufuor was appointed or when Kufuor was elected as president. We remember very well that he brought in Papa Kwesi Nduom. He brought in some other political figures who were not part of MPP. This is what Ghana actually did, so that we will be able to move forward. But if we don't go on that path, but stick to the political tribalism, as my friend Evans has elaborated, then we are on the path of destruction. Yes, yeah. My friend Edmond has yeah. Then we are not safe. Not safe because intellectuals will even be afraid to join one party, whilst they know that the other party are looking at them. But in a country like Ghana, for instance, if we want to go beyond political tribalism, then I think all the political parties should have a well-documented strategy that excludes or that prevents the elevation of party politics as the national ideology. What I mean is this: if MPP comes to power, it shouldn't say because we are MPP, this is what we want, regardless of what the nation needs. If Ghana needs roads, that is what we must do. But if MPP says we are in power and Ghana needs roads, but we're going to construct harbor, that is not what Ghana needs. And definitely that is what I'm talking about. We should look beyond party ideology. One of the reasons why Ghana hasn't moved forward is because of what? Ideology. MPP says, okay, we are for free market. We are for economic democracy, or what they call property-based democracy. What does that mean? And NDC is also saying, okay, we are also social democrats. What does that also mean? This is ideological positions that when parties base their policies on, it will sometimes lead the country astray. What Ghana needs is to move away from every kind of ideology. We've had so many ideologies. And in Nkrumah, we had one ideology. When Buzia came, we had another ideology. Up till now, we haven't reached anywhere because of this contradicting or conflicting ideologies. What Ghana needs as a country is that we need NDC, we need MPP, but we don't need their ideologies that sometimes put the interests of key political figures ahead or above that of the nation. If we are to cut off or end political tribalism, we need a national agenda.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. And yeah, I think for the sake of time, you would have to end here for me, Lord. I would give Albert and Edmond each a minute or two to also say something. I'm sure we would have to have a part 2 of this to be able to, delve deep and get your views as well, Albert and Edmond, concerning how to deal with it. But Lord, thanks already for bringing in some of the effects of political tribalism. And I get 2 major ones that you touched on, affecting development, and then also affecting security in the negative sense. Thanks. One question that I will pose to you, if we are here again next week, would be, the political ideologies that you talked about, whether it's good or bad. I don't know, people also have the view that if you do not belong to my political party and you do not share the same ideology, why should I employ you? I mean, there's the fear of being sabotaged or not doing the right thing, But maybe this is another discussion for another day. Albert, I saw your hand first, so maybe just a minute on the way forward also.
I had quite a number of additions to make to what my great brother, Mr. Akins, had already argued. Yeah, but because we may be coming back, I may not be able to pour out everything. So
then maybe I would say that I would give you time next week if we are here. What about you, Edmond? You think you want to say something? We have about 2-3 more minutes to wrap up. So
definitely, I think the discussion is getting more and more interesting, and there is a need to come back again to continue, because my paper is so full that I also need to truncate and also postpone some for the next time that you invite us again. But what I would say is that political tribalism has a negative effect that has weaved itself into the fabric of our society. And if I get a chance again, I'll touch on 3 things that I picked from the various submissions. For example, school politics in Ghana. It's so sad that every single thing we do in the country is based on political tribal lines. I'm going to vote for that person because I think that person is NDC. I'm going to vote for that person, I think, because that person is NPP. Even it has driven into religion, that we have a divide in our religious apparatus or our religious institution that we tag people, this is party A pastors and this is party B pastors. And the end effect of what is happening in the country is disinterest in politics. That's the honest truth, I must tell you, because a lot of young Ghanaians are now disinterested in politics because we clearly don't like the trend, and that's why we are here today. So if we come back again next week, I will get time to expand what I mean by all these. So in summary, I think it has a negative effect on us and we need to really rethink about it.
Absolutely. We'll definitely come to that. And I would make sure that we also touch on this, being tagged being tagged as a member of a particular political party, when in actual fact, it's normally not the case. And this has caused a lot of disinterest. And this could also be, contextualized or conceptualized as being part of political tribalism. So, gentlemen, I'm grateful to you for your time. It's been wonderful. I think it's been clear now what political tribalism is. And I must say that viewers would want to hear more from you regarding the various negative effects, even though Lord has already started, pointing out some of the negative effects. And most importantly, how to deal with political tribalism, which Lord has also touched on. And next week, if we are back here, one of the things I would want you to also talk about more after the general negative effects would be the effects on security as we move into election 2020. In particular, this selective invitation or selective silence, if you like. So thank you very much for your time, and viewers, thank you. This has been CEBSAR Talk with your host, Evans Apiakisi. Catch you another time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.